Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. Monday means we are at a new week, new theme to explore. This week might seem a bit counterintuitive. We're looking at minimalistic music, songs that are lesser filled and dense, I suppose. What's interesting, I think, is that when you remove complexity from music, you tend to increase other elements. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for this week, is to find some stuff that might be simple from a technical side, but deep on other elements. I don't know what those other elements could be, but that's what I'm hoping to explore. We're going to kick it off with a popular group, Porcupine Tree. Got some Steven Wilson going on. Let's dive into Collapse the Light into Earth from their In Absentia album. Yeah, so we're in 3 here. I'm not too sure about the phrasing though. I think sometimes we have 5-bar phrases, I think. And I won't forget you when we part. Collapse light into earth. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. At least this section. 5 bars of 3, so we're working with a 15 beat idea. Going for those really heavy harmonies. There's something about the production of the vocal harmonies here. It's kind of bouncing off of me. I think it's the first time something from Steven Wilson sort of bounced off of me like that. Oh, I thought I heard like a little ad lib. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that left side's so much louder. All right. There is a remastered version of In Absentia, and there's a remastered version of this track. It's a couple of seconds shorter. My guess is it just cuts off a little bit of the silence there at the end. But I chose this one because I think it was the one that I was told to check out. I don't think I was told to get the remaster. So I went with it, but I'm kind of curious what the remaster sounds like because this is a pretty good mix. It does get cluttered towards the end, but I think that's the purpose of it. I don't know what particularly the phrase collapse the light into earth means. It's an evocative phrase, but it doesn't really mean much to me. And I feel like given how often it was said in the track, understanding that phrase is going to open up the meaning of this album, or sorry, the meaning of this song in a way that I don't know that I'm going to get without. And I bring that up because the song is about, musically, it's about weight, right? We start with just the piano line, then we add vocals, then we add strings, then we add more vocals, then we add, I think there was a synthesizer in there, then we add the electric guitar right there at the very end. It only shows up for like 30 seconds. It becomes a very cluttered, very layered idea. It almost feels like even there at the end, so much of the instrumentation falls away. We have the piano, we have the hum, maybe it's the ringing out of the last note of the distorted guitar, but there's also some amp hum or some cabinet hum coming from that too, just from, all the overdrive going on, just having that white noise. And then eventually it cuts out. The song, to me, feels like it collapses in on itself until all that's left is the original foundation. And of course, much like how it started, that piano only really exists on the left side, which makes it feel like this right side is just void, it's empty. There is this schism of existence that I'm curious about. But I get this idea that there's all this buildup and it just can't support it, and it just crumbles away, leaving just the original foundation. What does that have to do with collapsing the light into earth? And I feel like that's the key to unlocking the meaning of this song. It's the last piece of the puzzle, and I don't have it. I like the build-up, though. I was a little apprehensive about it. Um, Minimalist writing doesn't necessarily mean using one idea. However, it is pretty cool that a few months ago, Maybe, I think it might have been more than a few months ago. This was actually one of the exercises we did for Composition Jam. I said to write a song that has one foundational element through, I think I just specified it had to be a majority of it. So I think I allowed like a B section, but it was pretty much emphasized maybe we should come back to that A, return back to a foundational idea. I don't remember the exact constraints of it, but it was sort of like this, where this piano idea exists throughout the entire song. And I kind of wish I had known about this. It'd be a really good example to showcase. Kind of get people into that mindset of building a bunch of, a really big idea off of a single one. But I do like the growth through this. I think many of the ideas are, well, let me put it this way. The ideas expand upon the base concept. We have these 5 chords coming out of the piano over here on the left. They tell a specific story. There's a little bit of brightness to it. It's also kind of somber. There's a little bit of negativity to it, a little bit of sorrow, but it resolves back nicely. All of the first vocals that come in complement it. It's a pretty standard melody line you would put on top of these chords. It doesn't necessarily change too much of the feeling throughout it. It just continues to work within that same emotional constraints that we have. But then we start harmonizing the vocals, and this brings additional characteristics to these chords. It allows them to explore different routes. And at least to me, a majority of these chords end up taking something a bit brighter, more optimistic, happier. What started out as at times solemn, having a little bit of a darkness to it, by the end of the song, with all of the vocal harmonies, with the strings around it, feels spiritually transformative. It feels as if I have undergone a transformation and am now experiencing feelings on another level. I've removed any of that negativity, and now the song has almost shifted to something that's positive and transcendental. And yet, that foundation, those 5 chords the piano gives us from the beginning, that is ever present through this song, are still there by definition of being ever present. Having that little bit of sorrow around, I think it was the 3rd or 4th chord, it's still there in the song somewhere, but it's given more context to where it doesn't feel as sorrowful anymore. This is what I meant when I said that I enjoy the build-up. It's not just that we have this foundational idea that persists throughout, it's that it's recontextualized over the course of the song to mean something different at different places. Those chords, those notes from the piano do not change. They just mean something different when new information is presented alongside it. It is recontextualized. And I find this to be really interesting because we don't end at the high point of the song. All of the new context is stripped away and removed, and we are reminded of that beginning. The slightly darker, slightly sorrowful elements in the chord progression return to feeling like those again. This is, to me, an exploration of the singular into the group into the singular. And that can be transformed into a ton of different narratives. I'm curious what the rest of the lyrics are about. Again, I really only picked up the line collapse the light into earth. It's stated like 100 times in this song, it sounds like, which again doesn't really have much meaning to me. But I like this concept that you can still be an individual within a large mass, but that you being an individual within the mass also changes the way that everything feels. You can still have what makes you you and experience something new in a larger group. But there's also a very human element to this, I feel, that if we can take this into the concept of time, it's the idea that we have to be okay with ourselves also. If the piano represents the self and all the layers represent community, friends, family, any sorts of groups that you may join in, you're alone at the start, in a sense. I mean, without getting into too much detail, you're usually surrounded by at least one person when you come into this world. At least one, hopefully. But you're kind of born alone, right? And you have to be okay alone eventually. But then you find groups, and you find how things shine and develop within them. But groups aren't permanent. If nothing else, just the human inevitability. I did not say that properly. Inevitability of death leaves people alone. And sometimes that's how things return to. That's sort of what I get out of this song, anyways. And I think it's just because Steven Wilson always puts me into this somber mindset. Does he write songs that are positive? I feel like every single song we've listened to has had some sort of heartbreak or sorrow or anger in it. Even if it's not necessarily about relationships in general. He did that song with Storm Corrosion with Akerfeld, I think, was that super group there, and it was about like burning witches or something. Like, okay, so it's not about loss, but I mean, dang, that's still not a bright, happy topic. So like, I don't know. He just puts me into this mindset of not necessarily negativity, but certainly the heavier topics of life. And that's where I sit with this track, I think. Now, I did bring up a point of, I don't know if I should say disappointment, but given that I only ever have glowing things to say about Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson in general, it feels very weird for me to say, oh, I didn't like that, because he's just been consistently a person who I can get behind every decision almost. I'm like, yeah, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. This ties into that. Like as I said in the past, he writes music that is just very clear and plain, at least to me, on the surface. I listen to the music, I know exactly what he's saying. We get to the lyrics, I'm like, yeah, that was exactly reflective of what I felt from the music. It's what I just talked about, analyzing and breaking the music down. But then we get to this track, and we get to the vocal harmonies around the halfway point in the song, and I wasn't a fan of the production on them. They sounded metallic, almost as if they were produced not by recording additional layers, but by using choir software to take one voice and transform its pitches to create a wider group of vocals. I highly doubt that's what happened. In many cases, when I've heard Steven Wilson do harmonizing voices, it's always him creating more tracks. It doesn't have this metallic robotic element to it. So either that's completely purposefully done and I'm noticing it but reading the wrong thing out of it, or I don't know. Like I said, I can't believe that he's using a VST to artificially create more voices. It just doesn't seem in line with what he typically does, but it doesn't sound natural either. And it's not bad. I'm not going to say that utilizing VSTs to create artificial choirs is a bad thing. In the right contexts, it sounds fantastic. There's a lot of pop music that utilizes software like this, and it sounds great within those types of productions, but already have quite a bit of tweaking on them. Here, it just sounds out of place, where everything feels very acoustic, and then this cold grouping of vocals come in, and I don't know, it just sort of bounced off of me. Again, not a bad thing. I didn't hate it. just didn't connect with me the way it should have, especially since I love vocal harmony. It's one of my favorite things in music. Usually the thing that I praise. It's awkward a little bit to be like, huh, that's a little not great for me. So I don't have any, constructive criticism about that because honestly, I'm not sure how it came to be. And for all I know, it's just my ears today. I woke up and they're just in a weird place, maybe. I'm curious if anybody else feels that same way about the vocal harmonies or if they sound completely normal and I'm just being a weirdo today. I don't know. But yeah, I mentioned it in the reaction. I figured I should bring it up, expand a little bit on my thoughts. Let me use some lyrics here and see what's going on there. There's not a lot of lyrics here. We have 8 lines that aren't collapse the light into earth, and then 12 lines that are. It honestly felt like there was a lot more lyrics to me. I don't know. It is about a relationship that's not working out anymore and 2 people splitting apart. It says, I won't shiver in the cold, I won't let the shadows take their toll, I won't cover my head in the dark, and I won't forget you when we part. I like this. It says that I won't succumb to the sorrow. I won't stay inside of the cold. I won't huddle for dark and shadows. I'm going to continue to be a bright person, to have warmth in my life. I'm going to continue to exist as a human being, even if you're not here. And I'm not just going to ignore my feelings either. I'm not going to try to forget about you. I'm just going to try to move on with life. Take the good with the bad. It says, I won't heal given time. I won't try to change your mind. I won't feel better in the cold light of day, but I wouldn't stop you if you wanted to stay. That kind of confuses me a little bit, but I think it still lines up within most of what I'm talking about. Most of what I'm getting out of it, I should say. That if you decide to leave and this relationship ends, I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'm not going to say that it's better if you stay. And I'm not going to feel better about the whole thing tomorrow. And I think the line I focus on a lot here is I won't heal given time. I think that speaks volumes about the type of relationship they have. That the hole that is left from this person leaving their life is, there's not enough time left for it to heal. And maybe the time necessary for that healing process is infinite regardless. No amount of lifetimes would allow that hole to heal. But he recognizes that it's not healing. I'm going to die feeling a little bit of pain knowing that this relationship is over. That's how much you mean to me. That's how much this relationship means to me. But I think it's interesting. It says, I wouldn't stop you if you wanted to stay. I might be reading a bit into that because up until this point, it seems like the relationship is rocky. And this other person is saying, hey, I think I have to leave. I think this has to end. Right? And his response is, yeah, that if that's what you need to do, do it. Right? It's going to hurt me, but I'm not going to let it destroy me. And then he says, I wouldn't stop you if you wanted to stay. And it almost feels like there's a part of him that understands that maybe it is better if they separate. Maybe not necessarily for me, but for the other person. And since I do care about them, maybe there's a part of him that says I should convince them to stick with their gut, to go on with their life without me. But then there's that really strong part that says I want them here. He says, I wouldn't stop you if you wanted to stay. At least that's what I get out of that. Like I said, it's a very interesting end to this whole thought process. It puts a little bit of a twist on it all and turns it into something very straightforward to you want to leave and that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it's fine. That kind of thing. But then that little twist that says, it's not what I want though, which is sort of illuminated already with, I won't heal from this. I won't feel better tomorrow about it. it's sort of already illuminated there, but I think right here just punctuates how important it is for this person to stay with them. And then the rest of the song is collapse the light into earth. And like I said, I really wish I understood what that metaphor is supposed to represent. I think it opens up so much of this poem here, this song, and I just don't quite get it. And so now I kind of wonder how much of what I took from the music can be lined up with this. I'm missing half of the poem, half of the lyrics I have no understanding of. But my idea was the singular to the group to the singular, and it's possible that that's how this is supposed to be also. It's about a person who was a person who didn't have someone important in their life, or at least a specific important person, the joy and transcendentalness of having this person in their life, and then having them leave and returning to who they were prior. But I also feel like all of the layers, to me, feel like more of a group setting than putting all of that weight on a single person to provide that context for your life. That feels like there's a lot of weight put on this person, which could be why they want to leave. Why they can no longer be around our narrator anymore. Those are my thoughts. Porcupine trees collapse the light into earth. What are your thoughts? What do you think collapse the light into earth means? Let me know down in the comments section alongside any thoughts, opinions, or perspectives you have regarding this song. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We do have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're gonna continue on with this week's theme of, what is this called? Minimalistic music. Yeah, that's what it is. I've got my head straight on. I can host a YouTube channel. I know what I'm doing. I've got the experience for this. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow. I already did that. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.